Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wisdom from North, the place where we're diving into the deeper meaning of life and asking the big questions. My name is Jannike, and today I have Bridget Nielsen on my show again. Bridget is an author and healer, a medium, and an artist, and quite the expert on the hybridization program. And we just did an interview about this, and I can really recommend to watch that to get the fuller picture of Bridget's work. But today we will be speaking about dolphins, earth PowerPoints, and sacred sites.
Oh,
hello,
yay!
Bridget. Thank you for coming back on my show.
Of course, I love you.
I love dolphins, and if you can see, I have a necklace here because I've always been attracted to dolphins, and I haven't covered that on my show yet. And I think many people have a feeling that dolphins are very intelligent, although we haven't been able to really prove like how intelligent they are. I think many people have an intuition that they are using, maybe a bigger part of their brains or brain capacities. But what is your perspective on what a dolphin is, or what kind of species they are?
Well, you're right. They are using a lot more senses, and we can go into that. But what they are, and I think how they're using more senses, is, to my understanding, they're Sirians. Like, so Sirius, the planet, right? Sirius star system, and they are actually incarnate souls from that star system, and so they just incarnated into the cetacean vessel. And so it seems like a strange thing to the human mind, because in a lot of ways we think of aliens or extraterrestrials as being human-like, right? Like we were talking about the Pleiadians on your other show. It's like they're humans, but we also have to remember that you can incarnate into other kinds of bodies. And so that's what they've done with the dolphins and the whales, is that they've just incarnated into these alien type forms. But they're actually aliens on Earth. So we have another species with us on planet Earth, which is really cool. We're not the only ones. We can also make first contact right here in our oceans.
Wow. So this is whales as well?
Yeah, it would be all of cetaceans, so it's dolphins and whales, yes.
And they have been here for a long time, right?
They're ancient. They have been on Earth for a long time, and the myth of how they got here has always been fun to me, because there's a lot of native traditions, Native American traditions, and I think also probably myths in your part of the world too, where they actually say that dolphins and whales, they usually particularly say whales, flew in from the skies and landed in the seas. And so it's interesting, we even have that in our cultural mythos of how they arrived on Earth from the stars, from somewhere else.
So you have adventure tours where people can come with you and your father to connect with dolphins. Like, how does that happen? How do you connect with them? And in regards to that they are extra dimensional beings.
Right. Well, it's an extraordinary experience. I've been a lot on my own in Hawaii and in the Caribbean, and it's how you connect with them is telepathically. So they push the boundary of communication, of telepathy. That's their gift. One of their gifts to us is to teach us how to do that, and it's so apparent when you're doing it that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. And so that's one of the ways of communicating and engaging with them. And so yes, I'm doing tours in Hawaii, 2 coming up in February. Those are sold out right now, but I'll probably have some coming up next fall of 2016, and maybe even in the Caribbean again, because I want, the thing that's interesting too, and kind of skipping around, but the dolphins are so different in different parts of the world. Oh. That's what was the most interesting to me about doing it in the Caribbean, swimming with them in the Caribbean and swimming with them in Hawaii, is their personalities, their energy, their purpose, their interdimensional purpose was so different, distinctly different, that I'm now fascinated by what it would be like to swim with dolphins, say in Scandinavia or outside of Egypt or in Australia. Like, each of them would be so different.
So why do you think they are here? Are they here for their own purpose in a way, or to help humanity?
I think both. They have their own, they're in their own world, and that's a thing to understand too, that is very distinct. Because I had never really swam in the open ocean very much. It was kind of a fear, not a big fear, but uncomfortable. And when I swam in the open ocean without them, there was a particular energy. And then when I swim with them, I realized that you're actually entering into, in a way, like the Syrian mothership. It's a different dimension as well as a different world, and it's completely energetically different. It's a different sphere, and so I think that that's an interesting part of it too, is that you're entering a different place.
So when you have telepathic communication with them, what are they saying? Like, can they teach you about technology, for instance, from where they come from, which I assume is much more advanced than ours?
Yes, it's very case by case, because it's like what they give you what you need, because they can read your energy, they can read your essence, they can sonar your body and go, you've got blocks in your heart chakra, you've got a liver that's not healthy, you've got say subconscious issues in this area. I mean, they can read our energy really well, and so they are going to reflect what we need. And so that could look like anything to them actually sonaring you, which is pulsing frequencies into your body, which is such an amazing experience. And they don't do this always to everyone, but they've done it to me, and it is like an explosion of the heart chakra. It's pulsing. My heart has been would pulse so much for hours. It was just pure ecstasy. And wow. And then in other cases, they'll do things like try and go have sex with someone, like, kind of bump someone, or they've been known to try and like kind of get up on someone. So why would they do that?
Yeah.
And I'm going, well, obviously there's a block in sexual issues, or there's something that someone's not looking at and they're trying to bring it up. So there's a lot more to, they really are teachers, and they're revealing a lot to us, and they can reveal these experiences. It can be energetic, it can be physical, and it can also be something a lot of times that takes a second to bloom, like when I am out of the water with them and maybe taking a nap after having gone swimming, I can have memories, of, say, like being on ships with my hybrid kids, or I can have greater connections, because they've opened the portal to, say, my Syrian counterpart. So there's a lot of stuff that they unlock, and I think that would be the biggest thing.
Right, so they are kind of healers in a way. They heal us. Yeah. I had a funny experience. I was in America in 2013 to do interviews, and I was in Sedona, and this particular time I was in California, and I was really sad that day. I was sitting looking at the ocean, and I was really sad. I don't remember why, but all of a sudden these dolphins just showed up, and I was like filming myself, because sometimes I'm blogging just for myself, just as a diary, and then I delete it afterwards, because I find that putting words on my thoughts is good. And then you see me like, oh my God, they're dolphins, and I just cry, and I get so happy. And it's the first time I've seen dolphins,
Really?
And I thought it was such a beautiful thing that they came, at that time when I was so sad, and I wasn't sad anymore at all. I was just so happy seeing them jumping, It was so beautiful.
I love that.
And I've also seen a dolphin in a dream, actually, where the dolphin was standing up, being a human being. So I've always had the feeling that there's more to them. And I read actually the other day that dolphins are very good for children who have maybe some kind of a disorder or behavior issues. Sorry, my English. And that is really good for especially children to swim with dolphins. Yeah.
Yes.
So I would love to move a little bit over to sacred sites and earth power points, because I saw on your website that you had this map over the world, and that you had pointed out several places that was, I think, sacred sites. Can you firstly just explain what a sacred site is for you?
Right. A sacred site would be a place on Earth that would have a natural increase in energy, and also some kind of chakra or vortex energy that would unlock in humans more of themselves and unlock memories. But it would be certain places that have heightened energies, portals, particularly an energy grid, something that would just be more palpably energetically increased.
Okay, so could that be, for instance, the pyramids in Giza?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And there's ways of accelerating, and in that case, like the pyramids, they're energy accelerators. So Egypt itself, Cairo, is a vortex. It's a natural vortex, which means the energy, like in Sedona where I am, the energy is coming out of the earth and winding up like a tornado, like a swirl. And so it's a natural point in the earth that is heightened. And so what you do if you want to accelerate that and then use that energy is to create something like a pyramid, right? And then that would amplify the energy. And so what they were doing is utilizing the energy. And that's why even in the Yucatan Peninsula, which is another area that's a sacred site, they have pyramids there too. And they would amplify the energy and use it as a telepathic communication. They would use it for free energy, all kinds of things, back in the day when they knew how to access and utilize these energy points.
Okay, so like ancient people or aliens or whoever they were knew about these sacred sites or places, or these places where there were a special kind of energy, and then they built things, buildings and different monuments on these places.
Yes.
But today we don't know how to use these places.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
I mean, yes, and that's the thing. The ancients did. I mean, in most of the sacred sites that exist today, you will find some kind of ancient temple or some kind of relic or some kind of stone circle or something symbolizing that they knew that it was a PowerPoint, and also probably some item or device like a stone that could then accelerate the energy as well. So they knew how to access this stuff. And what we're doing now is remembering how to do that. Remembering that we also, if we're interested in these places, usually have other incarnations there. So we know when we arrive, if you go to Egypt, it's like you're interested in it, you're fascinated by it, you probably have a life there where you did access those energies. And so that's part of it, is like going to these places accesses our memories of when we've used it before, so we can use it now.
Can it be healing to go to these places?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've heard of miraculous healings, like, say here in Sedona, someone that has crazy physical issues, all of them can go away. So yes, there's definitely healing powers to these places. There's energetic healing powers for issues that people might have too. So there's and each place has a very, very different energy of what the person would need. So there's certain ones that are going to help the masculine, the feminine, certain ones that are going to help accelerate and expand and like break up, stagnancy. And then there's other ones that are going to help soothe and nurture. And so each one has its particular medicine.
So what about the Bermuda Triangle? Because I saw you mention that on your website, and there's all these myths about, ships disappearing. Do you think they are myths, or is there something truth in them that the ships have disappeared? I don't know, like into another dimension, or if it was too much energy, that had an effect on the water or something like that. What is your take on that?
I would definitely say that it's true and that ships do disappear. I mean, it's been documented that they do as well, but it's a particularly in that spot, which is interesting, is it's a convergence between a vortex and a chakra point. So you've got energy coming down and you've got energy coming up. And in that, there's kind of like a chaotic dance. And when I was there, it felt very much like it was a place of change. Like it was just like always changing and always rotating because there were so many different energies. And it's a dimensional gate. And so things can disappear. And not only in the Bermuda Triangle, but there's places in Ireland and certain temples in South America where people would go into a church or a temple and they would disappear. And they'd be gone. And they're gone. And
where do they go?
Into another dimension, because often these points as well are portals. They're earth portals that can go to many different places, and usually these portals are only accessible at certain times. It's kind of like the like Indiana Jones or something, like the convergence of the astrological whatever to then open this particular earth portal. So there's certain timings, and as well as I think that there's certain access codes or energies, frequencies that could then allow you to enter into these other dimensions.
Yes, because like in Egypt, I know there's a lot of details about how the Sphinx is positioned in alignment with, I think, the lion. I don't know much about astrology, but it has a correlation with the heavens.
Yes.
Which is so precise. Like everything is so precise there that it's unbelievable.
Yes.
So they knew much more. So do you know anything about the Stonehenge?
The things that I know about Stonehenge particularly is that, and most of these also like rock stone circles or rocks coming out of the earth, is, for one, the rocks used are usually volcanic rock or rock that has really high energy, high Ormus count, which then moves the energy up and creates like a scalar wave, which could be used for many things. Could be used for like increased senses. It could be used to actually increase the amount of crops on the land because of the frequency. It would make crops grow faster. So things like that. But particularly for Stonehenge, it would be more like they would use sound frequency. They would hit the rocks in a certain way and create a sound vortex that you could use to teleport, or you could use to see into the other dimensions, or you could use for healing, lots of different things. So I'm not sure exactly what the exact purpose of Stonehenge was, but I know that a lot of these rock structures, it was connected with sound and vibration is what they would use them.
Do you think they are human-made or alien-made?
The different sites?
No, like Stonehenge, for instance.
Well, the thing is like sound. If harnessed correctly, sound and vibration can be used to levitate objects. So I think that Stonehenge was probably human-made, but the technology may have been given or passed down from an extraterrestrial maybe help, that they were the ones that say, hey, this is how you're going to use this.
So do you have any thoughts on how old it might be? like Stonehenge?
I don't know on Stonehenge. I mean, I know that like the pyramids in Egypt and stuff are more like 10, 15,000 years old, as well as like in Cambodia where I've been, those temples, a lot of the temples that they say are like were built in the 1200 after death are more like 12,000.
Right.
They're much older. And I also noticed, because having been to like say Cambodia and then Central America and then Egypt, I'm going, these were all, even the ones that they say were built in 1200s, they were all this very similar, and I'm going, they were built at the same time. You can just feel it, you know. There was a certain time on Earth where many of these spots were activated and all being used simultaneously. I don't think that they were like isolated civilizations.
Yes, because you see so many similarities between them, and I've also heard that they're connected. Do you think that the sacred sites are connected to each other? I'm not sure if I'm right now, but people are talking about these ley lines. Does that have something to do with it?
Absolutely. The ley lines are like the lines of energy that run from sacred site to sacred site. And the thing that's interesting is they really are interconnected. It's just kind of like simple energetic tuning in. When you're at these places and you start to go to quite a few of them, you can feel the other place from a place that you're at. So when I'm in Hawaii, my access to Mount Shasta it's like I'm there, and I astral travel in dream time right to Mount Shasta. Like there's a real connect. Or like in Sedona, I've had lots of very palpable dreams of Tibet and the Himalayan mountains. I haven't been there, but I'm there. Like I feel the energetic template of that place. So they're all interconnected, and from one of them you can access another, which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I'm really drawn to Egypt. I've been drawn to Egypt all my life, and I've never been there. And I saw also when doing research that you wrote that if you have a real calling, you should go. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, I definitely feel like you should go. And there's dolphin tours off of the coast of Egypt. And you should go swim with the dolphins there, because I would be so fascinated to see what those dolphins are like, because they're probably record keepers and wisdom holders. They would probably give you a lot of information about ancient Egypt.
So,
which is what they are.
What I kind of struggle with, and I think many do, is that we go perhaps to these places, like I've been to Stonehenge. And maybe I thought that something would happen, I would feel something, but I didn't. And that has been disappointing. And, you know, you speak about all these experiences. Okay, I've had my lucid dreams, but that's in a dream state. But I've never had any experience in my, like, awakened life. So I guess my question is, if we are feeling a calling to go to these places, like how can we open up to actually receive the wisdom and the knowledge that you are really receiving? Because it seems very easy for you, but I don't think it's so easy for everyone.
Right. Well, one of the things, I mean, for you, what I was just feeling is like the dolphins are really access points at particular sites to the energy of the site. And so honestly, like through the dolphins, you can access a lot more of a certain place than you would on your own, because they're using like 20% of their brain, that we know about. So we're using like 10 or something, and they're using 20. So they're doubling. So being in their presence is expanding and opening all of the capacities that might have been blocked. And then also they have all these access codes. They speak holographically and can impose these memories and bring stuff up. So one way would actually be to swim with the dolphins of the sacred site you're going to, because that would just at least open and expand you, make you excited, open the brain capacity. So in a lot of these sacred sites, you can swim with dolphins or go whale watching, and even just being in the sphere of these beings that are more open. That would be one really good way to access then the energy of Egypt. one thing, I mean, part of it is there have been lots of sacred sites that I've been to that I haven't felt much, you know, like when I've been to, say, Central America, I've been to like Chichen Itza 3 times, nothing, you know, like Cambodia, nothing, like there's just nothing that comes up. But when I go to certain ones, a lot comes up. And so I think that there's a real timing, and also going to the ones that might not be like, you know, as popular or something, or the ones that you're just really called to. So if you're really, really called to Egypt, then there's probably something there for you. So that's one thing that I would say is like, go to the ones that you're really called to, and there's certain timing. Certain ones won't do anything for you. Certain ones will. I think too is being just not having expectations, honestly, is a really important thing. That's one of the things that I've done is like, I just don't even, I don't have expectations, because people now assume that I'm going to have these experiences and then they make fun of me. And so I go and I'm like, okay, if nothing happens, that's okay. Just the experience of coming. I know that something subconsciously, or maybe it's awakening something that will become conscious later.
So if we can't afford going to these places, is there any way we can connect with these places or the energy of these places nevertheless?
Yes. I would say that just honestly looking at the pictures of these places, maybe even finding like a documentary on taking a tour. Like last night I watched a documentary on Iceland, because I'm going to be going there in June. And I'm like, okay, get yourself as much there as you can, you know. It's like, so what would do that? Pictures, video footage, reading the stories and the myths. You know, part of it might be to dig a little bit deeper, and that could open energies at these sacred sites too. Is like, if you find out like what the true history of that place was, and read, like, say you're going to Glastonbury, read the Myths of Avalon, you know, like dive into the energy, really get into it, so that when you're there, you have as much opening as possible to receive the information. If you're going to just some place you've heard about, you don't know much about, there isn't a way for it to come into your channel as much.
Right, that makes sense.
And for you, on how to connect with the places that you may not have, that, you know, say if you can't afford, lucid dreaming and astral travel. Right. Because these places are like, they're like living entities. Like, they really are, and they will seek you out. Like, once you're open and you're like, okay, I'm available. I want to connect with these sacred sites. I don't maybe even know which one, but please come to me, or I want to travel there. And so by intention, they can then start a relationship with you as a living energy. And especially if you do the videos and the you know, the stories of those places, that can build that connection.
What do you mean that they are their own entity? I thought it was more of an energy, but not an entity.
Well, I guess I say entity because it's like, it's a real consciousness, you know, and there's devas and particular energies that are almost like beings that create that energy field, but the consciousness is very alive. When living in these places, you learn that very quickly, because, I mean, people say it all the time, like, such as in the Big Island in Hawaii, they're like Pele, you know, they talk about the goddess Pele is the entity, the goddess that is the being that directs the consciousness or your experience of the Big Island. And if she likes you, you're good, and if she doesn't, rah, you know, and I've seen that to be true. And with Sedona, like, it spits people out, it makes people crazy, or it can make people completely accelerate and expand. So these places too, especially living in them, they can be dangerous if not used properly, because they are so accelerated, and the ego and the mind can just go, you can go crazy.
Huh. I've just started to think about another interview I did with Jamie Price. We talked about beings like within the earth, that there's beings not just, in the stars, but also inside earth.
Right.
So, I mean, there's so much going on that I think affects us in a way. Yeah, I was interested. I was curious. You're going to Iceland. That's not far away from Norway. So what are you going to see there? Because I know they have a lot of elves there. Well, that's some say it's a myth, but actually I think around 50% of the population believes that there are elves there. And they're like, when they're building buildings, they're asking, the elves if they can build here and here, and etc. So I'm curious, why are you going there?
Well, one, my friend, he's kind of a sacred site journeyer. His name's Illup. He's like solstice in Iceland, and I hadn't really, Iceland wasn't like big on my radar. But since, it's funny you brought up the Middle Earth beings, because since I've been like connecting more and like hearing more about these Middle Earth beings, I've really been able to start to access that these portals, these sacred sites, there's doorways to the Middle Earth through these places. And I've actually heard in an interview with a guy that studies the Middle Earth from a scientific point of view, that under the glaciers that are melting, there's actually, and this goes into a whole other thing, so we won't go far into it, but there's actually an ocean. There's our ocean, and then there's an ocean underneath our ocean that goes into the Middle Earth. And this is scientifically proven, and as these ice caps are melting back, this underground ocean, for the first time this last summer, was accessible almost for a ship to go through, to go into the Middle Earth ocean.
Oh my goodness. Who is this guy, this scientist?
I don't know his name offhand. I can get it for you, but
if you remember, I can put it below the video. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was really interesting to me, and I think maybe that's somehow why the Iceland thing came up, is I'm like, these glaciers, I'm like, they're really close to unearthing a whole under earth thing that's going on. And so I feel like there's a lot of energy in that, with that connection, as well as like the ice and like all the energy that's held in the water there. But honestly, like, there's certain places that come up that I don't know why I'm being called there.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think that would be the thing with Iceland, is I know I'm going to go to Glastonbury. I know I'm going to go to Ireland. I kind of know what that entails. But Iceland is a mystery. Yeah. And so I'm just going to go there and see what happens.
Lovely. I would love to hear about that. And I would recommend that you can come to Norway and see the Northern Lights, because that's magical.
Oh, I bet it is. I know. Yeah. What's the place that you told me about? That valley?
Oh, there, yeah, Hesdalen is this place. It's in the middle of Norway, but there have been tons of UFO sightings there ever since the, I think, 1770s and 80s. Like tons. It's very well known. There's been many documentaries about it, and it's not really explained. It's like these strange lights. Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's in the middle of Norway, and we have northern lights. I mean, I can't see it here in Oslo very seldom, but it's more in the north, and it's just beautiful, and it's quite magical, and many myths about that. So I can recommend that you check out that as well, because there's probably, a lot of things going on there.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Bridget. This was enlightening and really inspiring and wonderful to hear about. So thank you so much for your time, and all the best with your work.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching, guys. Remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't before, to see more of my videos. Much light from Sedona and Oslo. Bye-bye.
Bye.